The morning sky over New Providence burned orange and gold as two suns rose over the eastern mountains. Sarah Chen stood on her balcony with a cup of coffee, watching her daughter play in the garden below. The colony had been her home for 15 years, and she had never regretted leaving. Earth behind New Providence was a paradise. 3 million people called this world home, spread across 4 continents. The air smelled of blooming xenophora and fresh bread from the bakery down the street. Children laughed in schoolyards, farmers tended fields of hybrid crops that fed the growing population. The colony had just celebrated its 50th anniversary. Sarah worked as a communications officer at the Colonial Administration building. Her job was usually boring routine transmissions to other human colonies. Updates to Earth's supply manifests, nothing exciting, but today the long-range sensors had picked up something unusual. Ships were approaching, big ones. Governor Marcus Webb stood in the command center staring at the tactical display. His face was pale. 12 massive vessels had dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Their signatures matched nothing in the human database. Hail them, Webb ordered. Communications officer nodded and opened a channel. Unidentified vessels. This is New Providence Colony. Please state your intentions. The response came in mechanical-sounding English. This system belongs to the Vraxian hegemony. You are in violation of territorial claim TX-4427 filed with the Galactic Council. You have 6 hours to evacuate. Webb's jaw dropped. 6 hours. We have 3 million people here. That's impossible. We need time to. 6 hours. The voice repeated. Evacuation transports will not be provided. Comply or face consequences. Sarah felt ice forming in her stomach. She had heard of the Vraxians, reptilian species that controlled 17 systems. They were known as enforcers for the Galactic Council. Aggressive, proud, utterly convinced of their superiority over younger species like humanity. Webb immediately contacted the Galactic Council's emergency channel. He explained the situation. He showed them the Vraxian claim. He begged for intervention. The council representative listened with what seemed like boredom. The claim does appear to be valid, the alien said. We recommend immediate compliance. We can't evacuate 3 million people in 6 hours, Webb shouted. We need transport ships. We need time, please.
The Galactic
Council will file a formal inquiry into the matter, the representative responded. In the meantime, we advise cooperation with hegemony directives. The channel closed. Webb stood frozen for 10 seconds. Then he activated the colony-wide emergency broadcast. All citizens, this is Governor Webb. We are facing an immediate crisis. Begin evacuation procedures immediately. Grab essential supplies only. Head to the spaceports. This is not a drill. Chaos erupted. Sarah ran home. Daughter Emma was crying. Her husband Jin was throwing clothes into bags. We have to go, he said. Now the streets filled with panicked people. Cars jammed the highways leading to the 3 main spaceports, but New Providence only had cargo haulers and small civilian craft designed for in-system travel. They could never evacuate everyone, not in 6 hours, not in 6 days, 4 hours past. Governor Webb continued broadcasting appeals to the Galactic Council to anyone who would listen. He offered to negotiate. He offered to relocate the entire population. He offered anything. Admiral Kasath of the Vraxian 3rd Fleet received these transmissions aboard his flagship. He was a veteran of 40 campaigns. His scales were dark green with age. His eyes were cold. He turned to his second officer. The humans persist in their insolence. They are a young species, the officer replied. Perhaps they do not understand proper protocols. Kasaf's claws tapped against his command throne. Then we shall teach them. The galaxy must know that Vraxian claims are absolute, that inferior species do not negotiate. They obey. He gave the order. 36 orbital bombardment platforms launched from the Vraxian fleet. They positioned themselves over New Providence's major cities' energy signatures spiked as they charged their weapons. Sarah was at the spaceport with her family. They had managed to get aboard a cargo hauler with 40 other people. The ship was designed for 12. It was packed so tightly people could barely breathe. The pilot was trying desperately to get clearance for launch. Then the sky turned white. The first fusion beam struck Capital City. The downtown area where Sarah had worked simply vanished. A crater 5 kilometers wide, replaced at 300,000 people died in an instant. The shockwave hit the spaceport. Sarah grabbed Emma and held her tight as the building shook. Glass-shattered metal groaned. The cargo hauler's pilot didn't wait for clearance. He fired the engines through the viewport. Sarah watched. Her world died beam after beam fell from the sky. New London disappeared. Oslo settlement vanished. Chen province, where Chen's parents lived, turned to molten glass. Forests that had taken 50 years to seed burned, and radioactive fire oceans boiled. The cargo hauler struggled into orbit, dodging debris. Sensors showed the nightmare below the surface. Temperature was rising. Atmosphere was burning away. Everything was dying. 37 souls aboard one ship. That was all that remained of New Providence. Pilot's hands shook as he plotted a course to Earth. 3 weeks, he whispered. It'll take 3 weeks to get home. Sarah held Emma close. Her daughter had stopped crying. She just stared at nothing. Her eyes were empty. Jun wrapped his arms around. Then both his face was wet with tears. Behind them, New Providence continued to burn. The Varaxian fleet held position, ensuring complete destruction. Nothing could survive down there. Nothing did. Admiral Kasath watched the bombardment with satisfaction. The lesson was clear. Humans would learn their place in the galactic order. They would understand that they could not delay or negotiate with their betters. They would comply immediately. In the future, he filed his report with the Galactic Council. Illegal human settlement, removed territory, secured no Varaxian casualties. The Council's response came within hours. Action, noted to recommend restraint in future operations. Formal reprimand issued. Matter resolved. Kasath allowed himself a thin smile. The matter was indeed resolved. The humans would remember this. They would be more compliant now, more respectful. He had no idea how wrong he was. Cargo hauler jumped 2 faster than light speed, carrying 47 survivors and 1 continuous. Transmission. Everything had been recorded. The warnings, the pleas, the genocide. 3 million people dying while the galaxy watched and did nothing. Sarah sat in the cargo hold and watched the recording play again and again. She watched her world burn. She watched her friends die. She watched everything she had built turn to ash. Something changed inside her, something cold and hard and permanent. They'll pay, she whispered. Jen heard her. He nodded. Emma heard her, to the little girl's empty eyes. Suddenly focused. Promise, Emma said. Sarah pulled her daughter close. I promise, baby, I promise. They will all pay. Around them, the other survivors listened. Some cried, some raged, some sat in silence. But they all heard the promise. They all felt the same cold hardness growing inside them. The cargo hauler flew through the darkness, carrying its precious cargo of rage and grief and memory. Ahead lay Earth. Behind lay everything they had lost. The journey would take 3 weeks. Earth would have 3 weeks to watch the recordings, to see what the Varaxians had done, to see what the Galactic Council had allowed. 3 weeks to decide how to answering the hold. Sarah held her daughter and her husband. She stared at the bulkhead and felt something ancient stirring in her blood, something that had carried her ancestors across continents and oceans, something that had built civilizations and toppled empires, something that never forgot and never forgave. The Varaxians thought the matter was resolved. They were about to learn that humanity's memory was long and their patience for justice was eternal. The transmission reached Earth on a Tuesday. Every screen on the planet showed the same images. The Varaxian fleet arriving, Governor Webb's desperate pleas, the 6-hour ultimatum, the Galactic Council's indifference. The bombardment. People watched mothers holding children as the sky turned white. They watched cities of millions vanish in seconds. They watched fusion beams carve through hospitals and schools. They watched New Providence die. The world stopped. In Beijing, a shopkeeper closed his store and walked home without saying a word. In Lagos, a teacher turned off the classroom screen and dismissed her students early. In New York, the stock exchange suspended trading.
Ow.
In Moscow, the premier canceled all meetings. Everyone just watched the footage played on loop. Sarah Chen's face appeared in an interview recorded during the 3-week journey. Her voice was calm to calm. They gave us 6 hours, she said. 6 hours to move 3 million people. The Galactic Council called it resolved. They issued a reprimand for genocide. Her daughter Emma sat beside her. The little girl's eyes were still empty. I had a friend named Katie, Emma said. She liked to draw horses. We were going to have a sleepover this weekend. The camera panned to show all 47 survivors. They sat together in the cargo hauler's cramped hold, some angry, some broken, all united by loss. Jun Chen spoke next.
How my parents lived in Chen province.
They were farmers. They spent 20 years turning alien soil into farmland, growing food for the colony. My father sent me a message 2 hours before. His voice broke 2 hours before. He said the tomatoes were coming in well. He was proud around Earth, and her 100 colonies. People watched every family. Had someone they knew on New Providence, cousins, childhood friends, former coworkers. The colony had been a destination for dreamers and pioneers. Now it was a graveyard. But something else was happening, Tin. The footage people saw, the Galactic Council's dismissive response. They saw alien faces treating human deaths like a paperwork issue. They saw the Varaxian admiral's cold satisfaction. They saw the galaxy's true face humanity. It spent 200 years trying to fit into galactic civilization. Being respectful, being diplomatic, being civilized, accepting their place as a junior species, learning alien customs, following alien laws. Galaxy had responded by letting 3 million humans burn. Social media exploded with a single phrase in 100 languages. Never again. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered. Security Council, permanent members, minor nations, colony representatives. Ivarian Secretary General Amanda Okonkwo stood at the podium. She was 60 years old. She had spent her career promoting peace and diplomacy. She had won the Nobel Peace Prize for negotiating the Mars Accords. She spoke for 3 minutes. My granddaughter was on New Providence. She said her name was Amara. She was 7 years old. She wanted to be a xenobiologist. She sent me pictures of alien butterflies every week. Okonkwo's hands gripped the podium. The Galactic Council has declared this matter resolved. They believe a reprimand is sufficient. Justice for 3 million deaths. They believe we will accept this. They believe we are a minor species that will bend and comply. She looked directly into the camera. They are wrong. Every nation on Earth is hereby activating total war protocols. All industrial capacity will be redirected. All resources will be mobilized. We are not seeking council approval. We're not filing diplomatic protests. We are not asking for negotiations. Her voice dropped to something cold and hard. We are going to show the galaxy what happens when you kill human children. The vote was unanimous. Something unprecedented happened next. Every nation on Earth began working together. The old rivalries didn't matter anymore. Chinese engineers worked with American designers. Russian metallurgists collaborated with Japanese roboticists. European AI specialists partnered with African manufacturing experts. Humanity's greatest strength had always been cooperation. When faced with extinction-level threats, they united. When faced with impossible odds, they innovated. When faced with enemies, they became something terrifying. The Varaxians didn't understand this. The Galactic Council didn't understand this. They thought in terms of individual species competing for resources. They had never seen true cooperative. Industrial might. Earth's civilian industrial base roared to life. Massive asteroid mining stations in the belt, the shipyards hidden in the Kuiper belt, the fusion plants on Luna and Titan, the manufacturing complexes on Mars. All of them had been built ostensibly for peaceful purposes. Trade, construction, resource extraction. That was partially true, but humanity had learned hard lessons during the brutal colony wars of the 23rd century. They had learned never to be completely helpless. They had learned to keep options available. Within weeks, the first construction began. The design was simple. The Retribution-class Dreadnought, 800 meters long, armored hull plating 30 meters thick for spinal-mounted railguns, 60 missile pods, 20 fusion lances, point defense laser arrays. Enough firepower to crack a planet, but the real innovation was the construction method. Other species-built warships like works of art. Master craftsmen spent years on each vessel, installing systems by hand, testing everything meticulously. Each ship was unique. Humans built warships like they built everything else. Mass production, modular components, assembly lines, standardization, a Retribution class. Dreadnought took 6 weeks to build from start to finish. Components were manufactured simultaneously across a dozen facilities. Hull sections were stamped out in orbital foundries. Weapon systems came pre-assembled and tested. Everything clicked together like puzzle pieces. Earth had 147 major shipyards. Each one could produce 6 dreadnoughts simultaneously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The math was simple. Galaxy's intelligence network started picking up energy signatures 12 months after New Providence burned. At first, they assumed sensor errors. No species could produce that much industrial activity. Then the long-range scans came back. The Galactic Council convened another emergency session. Representatives from 40 species gathered to review the data. Their analysts had run the numbers 3 times. Each time the results seemed impossible. The humans are building warships, the Luminary observer stated. Our projections indicate several 100,000 vessels, the Varaxian representative laughed. Impossible. Quality matters in naval warfare, not quantity. A single hegemony dreadnought is worth 1,000 primitive human ships. Perhaps the Luminary responded, but what if they build 1,000,000 ships? Silence fell across the chamber, though. Council's military committee analyzed human naval doctrine and found something disturbing. Humans weren't trying to build ships to match Varaxian or Luminary quality. They were building overwhelming numbers. They were applying industrial age mass warfare to space combat Earths. Ambassador to the council was recalled. The human embassy closed. Merchant vessels disappeared from trade routes. All human contact with the galaxy simply stopped in the council chambers. This caused alarm. What were the humans doing? Why the silence on Earth? The silence was purposeful. Let them wonder, let them worry, let them see the shipyards and fear what was coming. Sarah Chen enlisted in the new United Earth Navy. Her daughter Emma was too young, but Jun joined too. They were assigned to different vessels. Sarah became a tactical officer aboard the UTS Retribution, the first completed dreadnought of her class. Ship's commissioning ceremony was simple, Captain. Morrison stood before the crew of 4,000. We are not explorers, he said. We are not diplomats. We are not peacekeepers. We have one mission: to ensure that what happened to New Providence never happens again, to make the galaxy understand that human blood has a price. The crew responded with a single word: retribution. Across human space, similar scenes played out. 500,000 crews, 500,000 ships, 500,000 promises of justice. By month 18, the first fleet was ready. 50,000 dreadnoughts. It's the largest naval force in galactic history. By month 24, the number reached 200,000. By month 3,500,000 Retribution-class dreadnoughts floated in formation around Earth and her colonies. Additional support vessels, carriers, supply ships, and hospital ships brought the total to over 2 million warships. Galactic Council watched in growing horror. They passed resolutions demanding human disarmament. They threatened sanctions. They pleaded for negotiations. Humanity's response was the same every time: silence. Secretary General Okonkwo gave one more address to the galaxy. You asked us to be civilized. We tried. You asked us to follow your laws. Did you ask us to accept our place? We complied. Then you burned our children alive and called it resolved. We are no longer asking for your approval. We are no longer seeking your justice. We are no longer part of your system. We are coming. The transmission ended. Admiral Kasath received the human declaration aboard his flagship. He felt something unfamiliar: fear. The humans had built an armada that dwarfed the entire Varaxian navy. They had mobilized their entire species for war. He sent an urgent message to the Hegemony High Command. The humans are irrational. They have violated all normal patterns of behavior. Request immediate reinforcement. The response was not what he expected. You started this war, Admiral. You claimed it would. Teach them compliance. Handle it. The Kuiper Belt shipyards operated without rest. Massive construction frames stretched across the void, each one holding 6 dreadnoughts in various stages of completion. Robotic welders sparked in vacuum cargo haulers, delivered hull plates, and weapon systems fusion cores were installed with mechanical precision. Maya Patel supervised Yard 7 from the command station. She had been a civilian contractor before New Providence, building mining equipment. Now she oversaw the construction of instruments of war. Her shift was 16 hours long. She never complained. Section 12 reporting hull integrity at 98%. A voice crackled over her headset. Ready for weapons installation. Approved. Maya responded. Move them to Bay 4. She watched through the viewport as massive cranes lifted railgun assemblies. Each weapon weighed 600 tons. The cranes moved them like toys, slotting them into the dreadnoughts, spined with millimeter precision. This was the 42nd Shipper Yard had completed this month down on Mars. The Hellas Basin had been converted into the largest weapons foundry in human history. The ancient impact crater now held 300 factories working in coordination. Missiles rolled off assembly lines at a rate of 10,000 per hour. Railgun slugs were stamped from asteroid iron. Fusion warheads were assembled in radiation-shielded bunkers. Colonel James Wright walked through Factory 17 watching the production line. His job was quality control. Every 100th missile got pulled for testing. Every system had to meet exact specifications. There was no room for error. Young technician approached him. "Sir, we're ahead of schedule. We can increase output by 15% if we reduce the testing interval." Wright stared at the man. "These weapons will be fired in anger at living targets. If one fails because we skipped a test, someone dies, someone on our side. Do you want to explain to their family that we were in a hurry?" The technician paled. "No, sir. Then we test every 100th unit, no exceptions." Wright had lost his sister on New Providence. He understood the desire for speed, but he also understood that revenge required precision. The training facilities on Lunaran. Day and night, 50,000 recruits cycled through every week, learning navigation, gunnery, damage control tactics. Everything needed to crew a warship. Instructor Chuno, relation to Sarah, drilled her tactical class mercilessly again. She barked at the simulation team. "You just let a Vraxian cruiser get inside your defensive perimeter? Your ship is dead. 2,000 crew are dead. Run it again." The exhausted ensigns reset the simulation they had been running combat scenarios for. 8 hours their eyes burned from staring at tactical displays. Their fingers were cramped from working the controls butt. They ran it again because somewhere out there the Varaxians who had killed New Providence were still alive, still unpunished. Still thinking they had won, the simulation ended with the Varaxian cruiser destroyed. This time, instructor Chen nodded. "Better you hesitated 3 seconds before firing. That's 3 seconds the enemy uses to kill you. There is no honor in fair fights. There is no shame in overwhelming force. You shoot first, you shoot with everything you have, you make sure they can't shoot back. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." The ensigns responded in unison. In Europa, the intelligence division analyzed every scrap of data about Varaxian military capabilities, ship designs, tactical doctrines, fleet compositions, weapons systems, everything. Commander Lisa Torres ran the analysis team. She had been a university professor before the war, teaching xenosociology now. She studied aliens to find the best ways to kill them. The Varaxian home fleet consists of 1,200 warships. She briefed her team. They favor heavy cruisers with plasma cannons. Their tactics emphasize individual ship combat. And honor duels, they consider numerical superiority to be cowardly. A young analyst raised his hand. "So they'll underestimate us." Exactly, Torres confirmed. "They think warfare is about glory and individual skill. They've never faced total war. They've never faced an enemy that doesn't care about honor, only victory." She pulled up a tactical simulation. "Our plan is simple. For every Varaxian ship we assign 40 dreadnoughts. They fire from maximum range all at once. We don't try to outfight them. We don't match honor with honor. We erase them with mathematics." The simulation played out. A Varaxian cruiser faced off against a wall of 40 human dreadnoughts. The Varaxian ship was objectively superior, better armor, better weapons, better crew. It died in 6 seconds under concentrated fire from 160 railguns. "That's not warfare," someone whispered. "That's execution." Torres looked at the speaker. "They executed 3 million civilians. We're giving them more consideration than they gave New Providence. We're at least shooting at armed military targets." The room fell silent. Back on Earth, the political situation had transformed completely. The old divisions between nations had evaporated. Everyone was united by grief and purpose. The megacorporations had been nationalized, their resources redirected to the war effort. Profit margins no longer mattered.
Hourly production.
Numbers Chancellor Weber of the European Union met with President Okafor of the African Coalition and Chairman Zhang of the East Asian Federation. These three had been political rivals for decades. Now they worked together, planning logistics and resource allocation. "We need more thorium for the fusion plants." Weber stated, "The shipyards are consuming fuel faster than projected. Australia can increase mining output." Okafor replied, "But We'll need more transport capacity. Jung checked his tablet. I can divert 300 cargo haulers from the Mars run. Will that suffice at will? Weber confirmed no arguments, no politics, no territorial disputes. Just 3 leaders solving problems because the alternative was unthinkable. The Galactic Council continued to send diplomatic messages. Earth ignored all of them. The Council threatened. Trade sanctions. Humanity had already cut all trade. The Council threatened to recognize the Varaxian territorial claims. Earth didn't care about Council recognition anymore. Finally, the Council sent a delegation to meet with Secretary General Okonkwo. The delegation consisted of representatives from 5 major species, including the Luminari, who are generally considered the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Luminari ambassador spoke first. Secretary General, we understand your anger. The Varaxian action was regrettable, but this military buildup is unprecedented. Threatens the entire galactic order. Okonkwo looked at the alien with cold eyes. Regrettable, that's an interesting word. 3 million humans are dead, you call it. Regrettable, we share your grief, the ambassador continued. But the appropriate response is the appropriate response. Okonkwo interrupted. The Varaxians gave us 6 hours, you gave us a reprimand. Now we're giving you a demonstration of human industrial capacity. The Varaxian representative at the table spoke up. Your fleet is impressive, but quantity alone will crush you. Okonkwo finished. You operate on the assumption that we'll fight by your rules, that will engage in honorable ship-to-ship combat, that will respect your traditions and protocols. She leaned forward. We won't. We're going to bring 500,000 warships to your doorstep. We're going to erase your military. We're going to hold your worlds hostage. And we're going to make you understand what it means to kill human children. The delegation sat in shocked silence. You're describing total war, the Luminari ambassador said quietly. Galactic civilizations don't fight total wars anymore. That ended millennia ago. Then, consider this a lesson in history, Okonkwo replied. Humanity remembers how to fight total wars. We never forgot. We just pretended to be civilized. Because we thought you were civilized too, you proved us wrong. The meeting ended. With no agreements, no treaties, no understanding, the delegation left Earth shaken. They reported back to the Galactic Council that humanity had fundamentally changed. That something ancient and terrible had awakened. The Council debated intervention. Some species suggested a coalition fleet to force human disarmament. Others argued for economic isolation. Still others recommended appeasement while they debated humanity built month. 36 saw 400,000 dreadnoughts completed month. 40 saw 450,000 month. 42 saw the final ship of the initial production run roll out of the yard's 500,000. Retribution-class dreadnoughts, the largest fleet in galactic history, each one crewed by 4,000. Souls who had sworn the same oath for New Providence, for humanity. For those who can't fight back, Admiral Rachel Kozlov commanded the first fleet from her flagship UTS Retribution. She was 55 years old, a veteran of the colony wars, a grandmother who had lost her son and his entire family on New Providence. She stood on the bridge and looked at the tactical display. 50,000 dreadnoughts in perfect formation, all awaiting her orders. Plot a course for Varaxian space, she ordered. Maximum speed, no stealth, no subtlety. I want them to see us coming. The navigation officer hesitated. Ma'am, that will give them time to prepare their defenses. Kozlov smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. I'm counting on it. Let them gather their fleet. Let them prepare their best defense. Let them feel hope. Then we'll show them what despair looks like. The first fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Varaxian space. 50,000 dreadnoughts materialized in perfect formation. Their running lights blazed like a new constellation. Every sensor in the system immediately detected them. They made no attempt to hide. Admiral Kozlov stood on the bridge of the UTS Retribution and opened a transmission on all frequencies. Her message was simple, direct, terrifying. This is Admiral Rachel Kozlov of the United Earth Navy to the Varaxian hegemony. You killed 3 million human civilians on New Providence. You gave them 6 hours to evacuate, an impossible task. The Galactic Council called this matter resolved. She paused. It is not resolved. We are here to collect payment. This is not a negotiation. This is an execution. New providence. We remember the transmission ended demands no ultimatums, no diplomatic protocols. Just a statement of purpose. The Varaxian home fleet scrambled to respond. Admiral Kasath aboard his flagship directed 1,200 warships into defensive formation. They gathered around Varaxia Prime, the hegemony capital world. The strongest ships, the best crews, the pride of the Varaxian militar. Kasath believed in the superiority of his forces each. Varaxian heavy cruiser was a masterpiece of engineering. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, shields that could withstand sustained bombardment. Crews trained for decades in the art of naval combat, but as the human fleet approached, something cold settled in his stomach. The humans moved with mechanical precision. Each dreadnought held exact position formation, perfect spacing, optimal, no wasted movement. This wasn't the behavior of an angry mob. This was disciplined military coordination status. Kasath demanded his tactical officer check the displays. Human fleet maintaining maximum weapons range. They're spreading out surrounding our formation. Let them. Kasath growled. When they close to effective range, we'll show them what real warriors can do. The tactical officer hesitated. Admiral, they're not closing. They're holding position at maximum range. Before Kasath could respond, the humans opened fire. L gun. Slugs traveled at 3% of light speed. The Varaxian shields were designed to deflect energy weapons and conventional missiles. They were not designed for solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. First Varaxian cruiser died before its crew even knew they were under attack. A railgun slug punched through the forward shields, through 30 meters of armor, through the reactor core, and out the back. The ship exploded, then the second cruiser died, and the third and the fourth. Sarah Chen sat at her tactical station aboard the UTS. Remember them. Her orders were clear. Target Varaxian cruiser designation V447. Fire when weapons lock. Achieve the targeting computer-acquired lock. Sarah pressed the firing stud. All 4 spinal railguns discharged simultaneously. The ship shuddered with recoil. 4 slugs, each weighing 10 tons, each moving at 9,000 kilometers per second, streaked toward the target. Her ship was one of 40 assigned to V447. 160 railgun slugs hit the Varaxian cruiser in the span of 2 seconds. The shields collapsed. The armor vaporized. The ship came apart like a toy. Sarah felt nothing. She simply moved to the next target across the battle space. The pattern repeated. 40 human dreadnoughts per Varaxian ship, concentrated fire from maximum range. Overwhelming firepower. This wasn't warfare. It was mathematics. Admiral Kasath watched his fleet die. He gave orders to return fire. But the humans stayed at maximum range, just beyond the effective reach of Varaxian plasma cannons. His ships tried to close the distance. The humans simply adjusted position, maintaining the gap. They're not fighting us, his tactical officer said in horror. They're exterminating us. Kasath felt rage building. All ships focus fire on a single human vessel. Concentrate. Everything. 60 Varaxian cruisers targeted 1 human. Dreadnought plasma cannons fired in unison. The human ship's shields flared bright, absorbed some of the energy, then the armor ablated. The hull breached. The dreadnought died. 4,000 human crew gone, but while those 60 cruisers focused on one target, 2,400 human dreadnoughts fired on them. 60 Varaxian ships ceased to exist. The battle, if it could be called, that lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Varaxian home fleet was gone. 1,200 of the finest warships in the galaxy reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Every single ship destroyed, every crew dead. The human fleet had lost 147 dreadnoughts, less than 3% of their force. Admiral Kozlov surveyed the battlefield. Her face showed no satisfaction, no triumph, just cold purpose. Broadcast the next message, she ordered her communication officer. Open channels to all Varaxian colony worlds. This is Admiral Kozlov, to all Varaxian colonies. You have 48 hours to evacuate. We will provide transport vessels. We will ensure safe passage to your home world. But in 48 hours, we will reduce your colonies to the same state as New Providence. You gave our people 6 hours. We are giving you 48. Consider this mercy. The transmission ended across 14. Varaxian colony world's panic erupted. The colonists had seen what happened to the home fleet. They knew the humans were serious. Transport ships. Human ships arrived. In orbit offering evacuation, the Varaxians had no choice. They boarded a true To her word, Kozlov provided safe passage. Not a single Varaxian civilian was harmed. The humans treated the refugees with cold efficiency. Adequate food, water, medical care, nothing. More than necessary, but nothing less for 88. Hours after the warning, the first colony world burned human dreadnoughts took up positions in orbit. Their railguns spoke cities, vanished infrastructure, melted atmosphere burned. The colony became a dead rock, just like New Providence. The second colony died the same way than the third. Then the fourth, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 40 species watched in horror as humanity methodically destroyed the Varaxian colonial empire. They must be stopped. The Luminary ambassador declared, "This is genocide." The human observer Earth had sent one representative to witness the council's reaction, stood and spoke. "This is proportion. We lost one colony. Of 3 million, they are losing 14 colonies. The colonists were evacuated safely. Unlike our people who burned alive, we gave them 8 times the warning they gave us. You call this mercy," the Luminary ambassador said. "We call this justice." The human replied, "And we're not done. The Varaxians still owe us interest on the debt." Before the council could respond, news arrived. Admiral Kasath's flagship had been located. It had survived the initial battle, but been crippled. The ship was dead. In space, Cass and 500 surviving crew were trapped aboard. The human fleet surrounded the vessel. Kasath expected execution, perhaps torture. He had heard humans could be cruel to enemies. Instead, he received a transmission from Admiral Kozlov. "Admiral Kasath, you gave the order to burn New Providence. I watched the recording. You didn't hesitate. You didn't show mercy. You killed 3 million people to teach us compliance." Kasath straightened. "Despite his injuries, I acted according to hegemony law. Your colony violated our territorial claims. Your territorial claim was filed before humans even reached space. We couldn't have known about it. You didn't care. You wanted to make an example of us." She paused. "Now we're making an example of you. You're sending us supplies, life support, a working engine. You're going home, Admiral? Going to tell your people what happened? You're going to explain that we could have killed? We could have made you suffer? We chose not to remember this difference. Remember that we gave your colonies 48 hours when you gave ours 6. Remember that we evacuated civilians when you burned them alive. Remember that we let you live when we could have taken everything. Go home. Admiral, tell your people what mercy looks like when it comes from humans." Kasath's ship was towed to the edge of the system and released. He and his crew made the journey back to Varaxia Prime. In silence, when they arrived, they found a world in chaos. 14 colonies lost, the home fleet destroyed, the economy collapsing, refugee ships crowding the orbital stations. The hegemony's high command met with Kasath. They listened to his report. They saw the tactical recordings. They understood the truth. Humanity hadn't just defeated them, they had humiliated them. They had shown that all Varaxian superiority was an illusion that could be shattered by overwhelming force. The Council of Claws debated for 3 hours, then they voted. The decision was unanimous. Within 4 months of the first human ship entering Varaxian space, the hegemony surrendered. The terms were brutal: complete demilitarization. All warships to be scrapped, war reparations to be paid, over 200 years human military. Observers to be stationed on every major world, a permanent human garrison in Varaxian space. Hegemony accepted everything back on Earth. Secretary General Okonkwo addressed the planet. New Providence has been avenged. The Varaxians have paid. The galaxy has seen what happens when you kill human children. But her expression remained hard, however. This is not over. We will not disarm. We will not return to the old ways. The galaxy proved it cannot be trusted with our safety from this day forward. Humanity stands alone. We protect ourselves. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. And we make sure nothing like New Providence ever happens again. The crowd roared approval. 5 years after New Providence, the galaxy looked very different. Galactic Council still existed, but its authority had crumbled. 37 species had withdrawn their membership. Others remained but ignored council directives. The Great Alliance that had governed the galaxy for 2,000 years was dying. Earth didn't mourn its passing. Secretary General Amanda Okonkwo sat in her office overlooking the Geneva skyline. She was 65 now. The war had aged her. Every decision had carried the weight of billions of lives, but she had never wavered, Day message appeared on her terminal. Ambassador Chen, requesting a meeting Sarah. Chen entered the office. She wore civilian clothes now, but carried herself with military, bearing her daughter. Emma was 14, safe, healing, still haunted by memories, but alive. Madame Secretary Sarah said formally, "Sarah, please sit." "We've known each other too long for formalities." Sarah took a seat. The Terran Coalition now has 63 member species. The latest additions are the Kelvari and the Minarian Collective. Both were threatened by larger neighbors. Both requested our protection. Okonkwo nodded. "And we'll provide it. That's what we do now. We protect those who can't protect themselves." Terran Coalition had been humanity's answer to the Galactic Council. Instead of a bureaucratic organization focused on maintaining the status quo, the Coalition was simple. Any species threatened by aggression could request membership. Humanity would provide military protection in exchange for mutual cooperation. No species was forced to join, no demands for cultural assimilation. No complicated political maneuvering, just protection. 47 species had signed in the first year, 16 more had joined since word was spreading across the galaxy. There was a new power that actually defended its members. "The Council is calling it imperialism," Sarah reported. "They say we're building an empire through military intimidation." Okonkwo smiled. "Without humor, let them talk. Have any of our coalition members complained?" "Oh, ma'am, the opposite, actually." The Kelvari ambassador said this was the first time in his species history they felt safe then. "We're doing something right." The human fleet had not demobilized 500,000 Retribution class. Dreadnoughts still patrolled human space and coalition territories. Every human now served a mandatory 2-year term in either the military or civilian defense corps. Some had questioned this policy. Why maintain such a massive fleet during peacetime? Why continue conscription? Akon's answer had been simple. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it is having the strength to prevent it. The fleet's presence had already prevented 3 potential wars. Aggressive species looking to expand into weaker neighbors. Territory took one look at the human fleet deployments and reconsidered. The Vraxian hegemony existed as a shadow of its former self. Their military had been completely dismantled. Human observers monitored every major installation. 2,000 human marines were permanently stationed on Vraxia. Its Prime Admiral Kasath had retired to a small estate outside the capital. He spent his days writing a memoir that would never be published. He had been forced to live with his failure to watch his proud species reduced to a client state under human oversight. But he had also been forced to admit a truth: the humans had shown more mercy than the Varaxians would have. The evacuated colonists had been returned safely. The human garrison treated Vraxian civilians with strict professionalism. War reparations were substantial, but not economically crushing. The humans had proven they could destroy. They had also proven they could restrain. This somehow made them more terrifying. In Varaxia Prime, a monument stood in the capital square. A simple black stone pillar with an inscription in both Vraxian and English. 3,200,000 human civilians died. On New Providence, by order of the Varaxian hegemony, the human response was just as tempered with mercy. We will never forget either truth. Young Varaxians passed the monument every day. Some felt shame, others felt anger. All understood that their species had learned a terrible lesson about the cost of underestimating younger civilizations back on Earth. Life had changed in profound ways. The wartime unity had persisted. Old national rivalries seemed petty now. Political divisions still existed, but they were tempered by shared purpose. The industrial mobilization had transformed the economy. Asteroid mining had expanded exponentially. Fusion power was abundant. Manufacturing capabilities had increased 1,000-fold. Humanity was richer than ever before, but the focus remained on preparedness. Every shipyard maintained production lines. Every factory kept war material stockpiles. Every colony had defensive platforms. Emma Chen attended school on Earth now. She was studying xenobiology like she'd always wanted. Her classmates were the children of soldiers and civilians. People who had lost family on New Providence or in the war that followed. They all carried the same lessons. Never trust blindly. Never assume others share your values. Never let your guard down. Some worried this generation would grow up too hard, too militaristic, too cynical. But Emma and her peers surprised the adults. They were harder than previous generations, yes, but they were also more determined to make the galaxy better. We saw what happens when the strong prey on the weak, Emma told her mother one evening. The council let it happen because they didn't care about junior species. We're not going to be like them. Sarah hugged her daughter. No, baby. We're not. In the Galactic Council chambers, the remaining members debated humanity's rise. The Luminary ambassador spoke with weary resignation. We created this situation. The council failed to provide justice. We allowed the Viraxians to commit genocide. We are now facing the consequences. The new Viraxian, Representative Kasath's replacements sat silently. The hegemony no longer had any real voice in galactic affairs. They attended. As a formality, what do the humans want? A minor species representative. Asked, they've built the largest military in history. They've created their own alliance. What's their endgame? The Luminary ambassador had spent considerable time studying humanity. I don't think they want an empire. They want to ensure new providence. Never happens again to them or anyone else they've seen that the council won't protect the weak, so they've taken on that role themselves. That's not sustainable, another representative argued. No species can police the entire galaxy then, perhaps. We should have done our job, the Luminary replied quietly. Perhaps we should have stopped the Viraxians. Perhaps we should have cared when 3 million humans died. Perhaps we should have shown that justice exists for all species, not just the powerful. Ones the chamber fell silent in, the UTS. Retribution now, serving as the flagship of the First Fleet Admiral, Kozlov walked through the memorial hall. 3 million names covered the walls, every soul lost on New Providence, each name was engraved. By hand, a labor of love and grief that had taken 2 years to complete, young crew members visited the hall regularly. They touched names, read stories, remembered people they had never met. Lieutenant Maya Torres, daughter of the intelligence commander. Lisa Torres stood before one section of names. My mom says we need to remember, she told her friend. Not just what happened, but why we fought. She says the day we forget is the day we become no better than them. Her friend nodded. They were both 17, both serving their mandatory term, both determined to never let humanity become the monster they had fought across. The fleet, similar conversations happened. Every ship had its memorial. Every crew had its stories. The war was 5 years past, but the memory remained fresh. By design, secretor A. General Okonkwo gave a speech on the 5th anniversary of New Providence's destruction. The entire human sphere paused to listen. 5 years ago, we lost 3 million citizens. The galaxy failed. Them, the council failed them. We failed them. We learned, we changed, we ensured it would never happen again. Today we remember not just those we lost, but what they taught us. That peace requires strength, that justice requires action, that freedom requires vigilance. We are not the galaxy's rulers, we are its guardians. And we will never forget our purpose. The broadcast ended with a moment of silence across Earth and her 100 colonies. Across Coalition space, aboard 500,000, warships, people stopped whatever they were doing and remembered. In the Viraxian capital, Kasath watched the broadcast. He had been invited to speak at a memorial service for the New Providence victims. The hegemony had erected its own monument, an acknowledgement of guilt, a promise to future generations. He stood before Viraxian youth and told them the truth. We believed ourselves superior. We believed might made right. We believed a young species like humanity could be intimidated into compliance. We were wrong about everything. The humans showed us what true strength looks like. Not the strength to destroy, though they have, that it's the strength to restrain. It's the strength to show mercy when you have every reason not to learn from our failure. Never forget that the galaxy is larger than any one species, and never assume that youth equals weakness. The students listened. Some would grow up resenting humanity. Others would admire them. All would remember back on Earth. Emma Chen prepared for her universe.